Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome all the attendees to the Lexsynergy.Africa webinar. I usually have my sidekick, Marina Robbins, who does the introduction, but she's based in the US, so because of the time difference, I'm handling everything myself. So hopefully everything will run smoothly. Once again, thank you for joining. This is quite an important topic, .Africa, which will launch quite soon, and it's relevant to trademark owners, brand owners, and also resellers, people that are intending to offer .Africa to their customer base. So what I'll do is I'll jump straight into it. Just for the record, this is being recorded. We will put it on our website. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to post your questions and I will answer them. Otherwise, you can contact us at the end of the webinar. You'll have all our details if you don't have those already. Just by way of introduction, my name is Daniel Greenberg. I'm the CEO at Lexsynergy, and Lexsynergy is a ICANN accredited registrar, and we specialize in assisting trademark owners and law firms in managing their global domain name portfolio. We also offer online brand protection services such as monitoring and watch services, and we assist law firms and trademark owners in recovering domain names that they want to acquire. As you can see from the map, we have quite a spread. We have a presence in Africa, making this Africa quite relevant to our business and our clients in that region. As you can see, we have offices in Johannesburg, Tanzania, Kenya, the UK, where I'm based. We have an office in the US and a satellite office in Australia. So that gives us the 24/7 support where we provide domain name management services to global brands. Moving on, getting onto the agenda for today, we'll discuss what is .Africa, who should register .Africa, the launch schedule, Sunrise, TMCH, MVS priority ranking. There are a lot of acronyms in the domain name space, so I'll explain those as we go along. Landrush, general availability, costs, and a brand owner strategy, and the reseller program, which may be relevant to some of you, others not. And then time for questions and answers. So jumping straight into it is .Africa. .Africa is a GeoTLD that covers an entire continent and is an identifier of a diverse population from this region, including its business. And this is the first domain name extension since the launch of this new GTLD program to cover such a large area. So here are some interesting statistics about .Africa, and I'll jump to the next slide just so that you can see how big Africa is. As you can see there, China fits into it, the United States, parts of India, Eastern Europe, Spain, Germany, France. So it's quite a large place. It's the second largest continent, 11.7 million square miles, 1.2 billion people. It's about 16% of the world's population. There are 54 countries. And from our research, they say there are about 2,000 different languages spoken on the continent. So it's quite a relevant area, and any trademark owner out there should consider a .Africa. You don't have to be from Africa or the African region to register one. Also what happens is it's quite complicated to register domain names in certain African countries. So .Africa will provide a blanket form of registration or protection to companies that say can't register in a certain country that can use .Africa to cover the region. Having said that, I don't think you can ignore the local country extensions, but this is just the cherry on top. It's the same as with .eu and .asia. You can have a .eu domain name, but then you still should have registrations for all the country code top-level domains or CCTLDs within the European Union and within Asia. So who should register .Africa? We did put in certain entities that should focus on it, that small business, African corporations, organizations in Africa, citizens of that live in African countries, but also the global community, with the globalization these days, continents cannot or countries cannot be ignored. Lots of international brands are within Africa, so it's important that they protect themselves. The cost of a registration, as you'll see later on, is minimal when compared to the risk if you don't. And I think this is a unique opportunity for brands to get unique domain names for themselves. So really, it should cover any large corporate anywhere in the world if you do touch the African continent or do business, that it is essential. So this is a tentative launch for .Africa. And why do I say that? The reason being is that the registry have given us these dates. They still need to be approved by ICANN, but we wanted to be the first in just so that we could start getting our clients ready for .Africa. If there is a delay, it may be moved to May, maybe a month later, but currently we've received no indication that the date will change as of yet. So please be aware that this could change, so stay tuned. We will inform you if any date changes will occur. But nevertheless, the same procedures will apply, so that it's important to know what's required in each phase. So as you can see, there's the sunrise phase, and I'll get into that in the next slide. There's a Landrush phase that's broken up into 4 sub-phases, each lasting about a week. And then after that, general availability. Each phase will end at midnight Central African time, and will begin at midnight Central African time and will end 1 minute before midnight on Central African time. So it's important to make a note of that. That's when the next phase changes over. So sunrise. The sunrise phase is a priority period reserved for trademark owners to register domain names that match their particular trademark. And for .Africa, it is quite important because there are 2 avenues within which you can validate your trademarks, because in order to participate in this priority period, it's not good enough just to have a registered trademark. You need to be in the clearinghouse, and a clearinghouse validation takes about 5 to 10 days depending on how many applications are being processed. So it's important to get your trademark into the clearinghouse now so that you are ready for the sunrise. The sunrise for .Africa is not first come, first served, so at least it gives you a little bit of time to secure your mark at the Trademark Clearinghouse. At the end of the sunrise period, they would then allocate the domain name. If there's only one applicant for a domain name, then what happens, it will be allocated to them. If there's more than one, then what will happen, there will be a ranking, which I will go through a little bit later in subsequent slides. And based on the priority of the ranking, the domain name will be allocated. So if you have a higher ranking than another trademark owner during the sunrise period, the domain name will be allocated to you. If there are 2 trademark owners on the same priority level, it will then go to an auction. So the way you can validate a trademark currently is through the Trademark Clearinghouse, and that's the default validation agent. What they basically do is they validate that you in fact own the trademark and that you've used the particular trademark. That is what has been used for all the new GTLDs that have launched over the past 2.5 years or more. Now there's the Mark Validation System, the MVS. This is a validation system that was set up by the .Africa registry. It was also used for Durban, Joburg, and Cape Town. I'll get into that. And that has its unique ways of validating certain rights. So we will go through those rights. You can see which ones best fit your client's situation, or if you're a brand owner, your situation. And the idea is to get to the top of the priority ranking. So first I will deal with the Trademark Clearinghouse. The Trademark Clearinghouse applies to all new GTLDs. So the advantage of that is once your mark is in the clearinghouse, for all subsequent sunrises, you can participate in that period. What happens is, as you can see in that diagram, you need a registered trademark, so applications are insufficient. Once you take your trademark, we submit it to the Trademark Clearinghouse with a sample of proof of use. You can then have the mark validated for 1, 3, or 5 years, which has a price difference, as you can see on the presentation. We have quoted it in dollars. If you need the pricing in rands or Kenyan shillings or pounds or euros, just contact us and we'll send them through to you. Then the mark is validated. Then the Trademark Clearinghouse sends us an SMD file, which is a verification code, which we then use to register your domain name during the sunrise period. So as a Trademark Clearinghouse agent and a registrar, we can process both for you. Now, what this does, the Trademark Clearinghouse, is it allows you to participate in the sunrise period, but it also offers a claim service during that period. And what a claim service is that for the first 90 days, if any party registers a domain name that matches your trademark or your string in the Trademark Clearinghouse, they would receive notification before the registration of your rights, so that they are aware that if they then proceed with the registration, you would be notified as the trademark owner. So it's a kind of a watch service for or a very limited trademark watch service. It also, after the 90-day period, you do receive notifications when someone does register an identical match of your trademark. So that for the Trademark Clearinghouse that was recently introduced, it's kind of ongoing. They've also added 20 variants to that. So you can add 20 variants of your mark now so that you can receive a notification of that. So if your mark is Lexsynergy, for example, you could have Lexsynergy domains in there as a variant and you'll receive notifications of that. You could have LEXSY, so you can have a part, the beginning part or end part, but it must be more than 4 characters. So we would work with you to set up the variant so that it's as broad as possible, and it should be used in instances where you are targeted by, say, squatters, and you want to be notified of domain names that they do register. So that would be maybe a common misspelling, provided it falls within the rules of the Trademark Clearinghouse. So that's the Trademark Clearinghouse. We would suggest that clients, or if you're a law firm, to start notifying your clients now that they should start submitting their marks to the Trademark Clearinghouse. We are accepting applications already, and we have processed a few for .Africa. So that is quite crucial from the Trademark Clearinghouse perspective. Moving on, the Marks Validation System, or NVS. This was used to a lesser extent for the 3 city GTLDs, that was Durban, Joburg, and Cape Town. And that is very similar to the TMCH. I will highlight the differences to that. One of the differences, the MVS has 10 strings or variants, while the TMCH has 20. The MVS only applies to .Africa now, and it's much cheaper than the TMCH. So as you can see, the price is $88. But the real difference there is for the MVS, you can validate not only registered trademarks, you can validate company names, trust names, and common law marks. So this creates an opportunity for clients that maybe don't have a trademark, but they have a company name. They can have that validated. The only difference is that for the validation of a common law mark is you need 2 forms of proof of use. And if the mark is descriptive, you would need substantial amounts of evidence, because they want to try avoid someone applying for the domain name business.africa. So if someone says, well, I use the word business and here's the advertising, I think that would be treated with suspicion by the MVS. But at least if you do have a company name, you are able to validate that. The difference between the 2 will also be highlighted according to the ranking. So what we've tried to do is kind of summarize the sunrise eligibility requirements. So this is relevant to the priority. So what will happen is, if you file maybe I'll jump 1 slide ahead to make it easier for you to understand. This is what will make whether you go via the TMCH or the MVS important. So if you submit your trademark, you have a registered trademark from Africa, you have the top priority. via the TMCH. So as you can see, that the first priority will be allocated to an African registered trademark that's validated through the Trademark Clearinghouse. After that, they will look at court-validated trademarks within Africa, and then a statute mark anywhere in the world. Now, a court-validated mark and statute mark, I've never come across any in the new GTLD launches, so you can ignore those. So basically, the TMCH with an African registered mark has priority. After that, it's the MVS for an African mark. So if you've got a mark registered in any country in Africa, you would have second priority within this first priority band. Then we move over to the second priority level. That is where you have a trademark registered with a Trademark Clearinghouse outside of Africa. The next one is outside of Africa, but with the MVS. So as you can see, the Trademark Clearinghouse always trumps the MVS, but there is a difference between validated marks within Africa and anywhere else or outside of Africa. A lot of our clients in the past have validated marks that they've had in the UK and the US. So this means that they will drop down almost 3 levels on the priority list. So if you've validated a mark outside of Africa, you should revalidate with the Trademark Clearinghouse to get the top priority. The MVS is really an option, I would say, where costs are an issue or something along those lines, but otherwise the TMCH makes sense. The MVS only really kicks in if you have a company name. As you can see, that will rank higher than a common law on the third priority level within Africa. Then the fourth priority level is company names and trust names and common law marks outside of Africa. So that's a priority level. Going back to the previous slide, we've tried to set this up to show you the best possible routes to go through when securing .Africa. And it is an important thing to communicate to your clients. So the question we ask is, do you have a trademark? So yes, we will go down the Trademark Clearinghouse route. Remember, you need to have had your trademark, or the right must have existed 1 year before the launch. So if the launch is on the 4th of April this year, the right should have accrued to you last year, 2016, 4th of April, or before 4th of April, 2016. I think what they want to prevent here is from someone registering a trademark, say in Switzerland or some country where you can get a registration within a couple of days and then you have some sort of priority. So that's important. So if you have a trademark, we go yes, then we go down to the Trademark Clearinghouse. You'd submit your mark to the Trademark Clearinghouse. What we would need is a registration certificate. If you are from South Africa, they do not accept register pages. It's not an official, official proof of registration, so you need the actual certificate, and then a subsequent renewal certificate if it has been renewed since the mark was first filed. So these are marks obviously older than 10 years. And then proof of use. This could be a screenshot of a website with your mark appearing. It has, if it's a word mark, it can appear in obviously any stylized form, but if it's a stylized mark, it has to appear as such on the proof of use. We normally source that from a website for clients, so that is not an issue. But the most important thing is trying to find that registration certificate. Then, once that's done, you can participate in the Sunrise. If you want to go to the MVS route for the Sunrise, you can, but bear in mind you'll be ranked at a lower level. So I would only suggest that orange route on the left-hand side if costs are an issue for you or your client. The next is if you don't have a trademark, and that's a registered trademark, but you do have some other rights. So if you don't have any rights, that's when you would go to the Landrush or GA phase. So you'd skip out the Sunrise phase, and we'll deal with the Landrush and GA phase in later slides. So if you do have a right, then that isn't a registered trademark, you would go the MVS route. And I would suggest that this be done for any marks that are core, but you have not registered a mark for. Company names, trust names, common law marks. So if you do use, maybe you have a payoff line, but you haven't filed a mark for it, or even if it is kind of descriptive, it's best to try your best to get it in the MVS, because if you do, then at least you have a priority, so you don't have to try and scramble and get your mark at a later stage. I will move back now to the priority phase, which you can see over there. The next is the Landrush phase. So what the Landrush phase is, it's divided into 4 sub-phases. The Landrush phase is open to any party without restriction. So any party from anywhere in the world can apply for a domain name. The only difference is that it's more expensive. It's not allocated on a first-come, first-served basis. At the end of the Landrush, they will determine how many applicants there were. If there's more than one, then it will go through to an auction. And really what the Landrush is, it's to sell domain names at a premium price for those that want to be first in. So if you don't have any, if you have domains you want to register that can't be validated for the Sunrise, the Landrush is your next option. And we'll go through the pricing. It is quite expensive, so if you can get it through the Sunrise, that would be best. The next is the general availability. So this is where it's open to everyone. So at a standard cost, and we'll go through the costs in the next slide. So this will be allocated on a first-come, first-served basis. So for the GA, we will have a queue set up, and this queue we will list all the domains so that when it launches, we'll submit the applications at the first available opportunity to make sure you get in before anyone else. While this is going on for 90 days, there will be this claims notification that I spoke about earlier, where you would receive notifications, or the person trying to register your trademark as a domain name would receive a notification, and then the claims notification would be ongoing with the MVS and Trademark Clearinghouse, that mini type of watch service that I mentioned. So we will discuss the pricing in the next slide, but the way that it will operate is initially it will be quite expensive in the first part of the general availability, but that will become apparent in the next slide, the costs. So the costs for the Sunrise, this is in dollars. Like I said, we provide support in rands, Kenyan shillings, and euros and pounds. So we'll send those prices. It's just easier to set at the dollar price for the moment. So create price, that's the registration cost to register a .Africa domain name during the Sunrise. It will be $180. Then the renewal will be standard at $19. So the $19 will apply to all renewals, no matter what category or phase you applied or registered your domain name for. These costs do exclude the MVS charge and a TMCH charge, which would be added on top of that. As you can see, the Landrush phase is really intended to generate a lot of revenue for the registry. So a create, which is a registration, will cost $6,000 in the first week of the Landrush. After that, it drops to $2,750. Thereafter, it drops to $1,500 and then $750. But please remember that the renewals are at $19. So if it's worth the investment, I would suggest that you secure it during the Landrush if you can't get into the Sunrise. And then with a general availability, for the first month, it will be $180 to register a domain name. After the first month, it will drop, and the price will then drop to $19 for a registration. So the reason for that is they obviously want to the registry wants to try and recover a lot of money during the first month of the GA. As you know, .Africa has been delayed because of litigation in the US. There's been a lot of controversy. I won't get into that now, but they are launching at the end of the new GTLD phase, so they obviously have to recover some costs there, and that's probably the reason behind that. So it will drop and it will become affordable. And I think one thing I would like to say, jumping on to the next slide, is that from a strategy perspective, we obviously say if you do have the budget, secure all core trademarks in the sunrise phase. But for .Africa, people say, which domain name should I register? You know, I'm a bit tired now. We've got so many domain names. We've registered in all these new GTLDs. What do we do? And I say, well, if you have a co.za domain name for South Africa, or you've got an NG Nigeria, co.k in Kenya, and it's important enough to register within that country, then it's definitely important enough to register in .Africa, if not more important. Because if your business branches out into different countries, you will have this blanket domain that covers all countries. So if you're operating in Ghana and you move over to Kenya or Tanzania, you at least have a domain name that covers all of this. So core marks are an essential. You need now to confirm whether your Trademark Clearinghouse validations are valid, because they do expire. You can register them for 1, 3, or 5 years. So if they are expiring, it's good to renew it now beforehand. Or if you don't have any marks in the TMCH or the MVS, submit them now. Then work out a list of which domain names you want to include in the sunrise phase, then which ones you want in the Landrush phase. And what we'll do is we'll work with you. So if you want to contact us after this webinar, we'll sit down, look at your portfolio, look at your trademarks and domain names, and work out which .Africa domain names you should apply for. Just to give you a bit of background, we're quite knowledgeable in the African space. These are some of our accreditations within the African region. So if you have any domain names within those extensions, the .Africa is crucial and quite important. In some cases, it's difficult to register domain names in certain countries. For example, Swaziland is one, Niger is another, Mauritania is another. So because they're so difficult, at least .Africa will give you the option of using that within those more difficult countries. We also, for those that are involved in the domain name business themselves, we do have a reseller program, and in summary, it allows you to register .Africa domain names for your clients directly through our system. We have an API, and we have access to over 1,000 TLDs, including .Africa. So if you are interested in the reseller program, please get in touch with myself, or you can email us at support@lexsynergy.com to get more information about that. It's quite a simple process. We sign an NDA. If you agree to the reseller agreement, we set up your account, and you can register directly through our portal or via our API. So this is for resellers that are interested in the process. If you are a trademark owner and you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we will answer any questions you have. Also, when it comes to a strategy session, we can work with you to work out, what is best for your company, how you should go about, which ones you should maybe submit, which marks. If you have a limited budget, which ones we should submit to the MVS, which ones to the Trademark Clearinghouse. The MVS can be a bit more complicated to get your validation, just because it's not done directly by the registry themselves. They appoint lawyers, trademark lawyers, mostly in South Africa, that then validate the marks. So sometimes there can be a lot of questions, a lot of back and forth. So the time is now. Even if the date is pushed over to a month later to May, the launch date, it's still crucial to get your marks in at this point. So I would like to thank you for attending this webinar. It will be available on our YouTube channel. Also, if you want, we will send through a brochure which should be ready today or tomorrow, so you can pass this on to your clients or internally to start getting instructions on which domain names you'd want to apply for during this period. I was just wondering if there are any questions. There is a comment box, a chat function that you can add them into. If you do, let me know and I will answer those. I just see there's one good question here. I see, does .Africa have premium names? Yes, they do. Premium names, these are probably more generic 2-character, 3-character domain names that the registry considers to be valuable. And what they will do is the price is fixed, so it doesn't vary like the other registries. And we've set our price for the premium at $600. Once you've paid that price, the renewal then dropped to the standard pricing of $19. And we would just simply convert that amount to rands or whatever other currency you operate in. So some domain names, and that's also quite important why it's good to get your list out now, because if some of your trademarks fall within the premium space, they may be more expensive. There are certain marks out there that I'm aware of that are more descriptive and could be within this premium name space. One other question is, for the TMCH, yes, you do need a registered trademark for the Trademark Clearinghouse. You cannot rely on an application. For the premium names, we're still waiting for the list. We've been asked the question where they can get the list from, the premium names. We're waiting for that from the registry. So as soon as we have that, we can then check them and make them available to you. What we would do is on our system, when someone does try and register a domain name and it is a premium, our system will flag that so that they are aware, and normally we then process that just because of the high cost associated with premium domain names. I'd just like to see if there are any other questions. Okay, it doesn't seem as if there are any other questions. So once again, I'd like to thank you for attending this webinar, and feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions on .Africa. Thanks a lot.